Erica and Quentin, I'm proud to be in the same class as you. When I can tell people I'm in the class of 2022, sure sounds a lot better than 1969 University of Maryland. And I really appreciate, like Quentin said and Erica have said, all of you being here. But I have to tell you an honest piece of this whole puzzle. Michael calls me in May. Hey, Michael's calling. Great. I get to talk to him and find out what the real world's about in college athletics. We talk maybe 2-3 times a year. And he calls late in the day because he knows I'm hard to get off the phone. So maybe 30 minutes later, he's missing dinner. And he says, by the way, the real reason I called is I want to let you know that we would like to induct you into the Hall of Fame. And this may surprise you, but I said, whoa, that's not a good idea, Michael. I've been gone 21 years. Most of the people that helped in that regard during that tenure are really old as I am. Some aren't around anymore. They don't know who the hell I am. But more importantly, Michael, and this is the honest truth, is that my own personal opinion and belief is that this honor are for people that are on the arena, on the field, the coaches and the athletes who sweat and perform and compete and sacrifice. Not some joke from New York who gets paid and he's an employee to watch games. It's not for those kinds of things. I hope, Michael, that our friendship remains intact if I decide that I'm not going to come down. He didn't answer that part of it, but be that as may, I talked to a few people and came to realize, as dumb old me might not have realized, that's not about me. I didn't do those things. I didn't score a touchdown. I never made a field goal. I never served an ace. I never did any of those things here. But it gives me the opportunity to come back and say how grateful I am, my family is, for all the things that you all did. You as donors, sponsors, ticket holders, supporters, fans, coaches, athletes. This whole world of college sports is about the people. And I am extraordinarily grateful for all the people that made our program as successful as it was, so that you might think that this is an appropriate time for me to come up and give a little speech. So I'm really grateful for that. One of the people I talked to was my wife. She could only say, yeah, I'll go. But you need to understand that since we moved to Atlanta, I've never bought a green dress. So thanks a lot, Michael. I hope you all tell her how pretty she looks in her new green dress. And there's a lot of things I'd like to clarify. When you're in a position of leadership, you often get held responsible for things that you may or may not have anything to do with. And you also, more often than not, get credit for things that you really didn't deserve to be credited with. I heard a lot of those tonight. Who's that young guy up there? I don't recognize him. One of the things I'd like to clarify is that I knew that when I was coming to USF that I was inheriting a great management team. And you all saw Barb Sparks McGlynn. She was here when I came and she was here when I left. We were there side by side on every decision we've ever had to make, and her counsel was extremely valuable and important to each decision that we made along the way. However, one of the things that was mentioned is that I hired Ken Erickson. Truth of the matter is, he was elevated while I was the athletic director from assistant coach to head coach of our softball program as we were making the transition from slow pitch to fast pitch softball. But the fact is that Barb was delegated that responsibility to manage that whole process of selection. And she comes to me and she says, I think I'd like to recommend, not I think, I want to recommend Ken for the position. I said, why? So she says, well, you know, he's got great experience as a player. He was a catcher on the men's national team. As a catcher, he learns how to handle the pitchers and the whole game from behind the plate. I've watched him interact with the athletes. I watched him do a great job. And I just believe he's the right man for the job. I said, are you sure? And there was a pause. And then she says, you know, selecting coaches is not an exact science. But the worst that could happen is, if he isn't successful, with the two of you being from New York, at least we'll have someone that can help us understand what the hell you're saying all the time. So Kenny, as of tonight, since you're being relieved of that responsibility, anybody wants to understand what I might have said tonight, ask Ken. But by tomorrow morning, you're off. You're off the hook. Okay, buddy? All right. And you know, I came to USF in 1986. And there's some things I'm going to tell you tonight that most people don't know. I would not have been offered the job, and I would not have accepted the job were it not for Jeff Davis. Most of you don't know Jeff. He was the athletic director for the year prior to my arrival. Worked his tail off. And when I was athletic director for the first couple of years, he was instrumental in helping me get acclimated to the world of USF and the world of USF athletics. Later became coach and athletic director at St. Pete Junior College at the time, and did a great job over there in elevating and managing those programs. So one of the things this opportunity has provided me is an opportunity to recognize Jeff and say thank you. At the same time, I came on the job about the 1st of June. 2 weeks later, president retires. John Lott Brown is president. Which at that time, you know, I was so full of you-know-what and vinegar that it didn't faze me that the guy that hired me is now out the door. Later on, as I reflected back on it, I was the athletic director for 15 years, which is a lot in these dog years of college athletics. But I served under 4 different presidents and 6 interim presidents. I didn't realize how hard I was to work for. And 2 weeks after that, my basketball coach resigns. And I've been on campus now for 3 to 4 weeks. We have not even met yet. So I didn't even have a chance to really offend Lee Rose, who was a great coach and decided to go into the NBA and San Antonio Spurs at the time. And now I've got this happening to me. So I said, gee, Jeff, I need a win. Let me make a win. So the first hire that I made was the smartest and the simplest hire, because the year prior, Robin Roberts had retired, and Eddie Cardieri stepped in the void. And for 29 years, he dedicated his professional career to USF. So first, and thank you. So it was a rocky start then. I had never worked at a public university. So while we were hiring a basketball coach and hired Bobby Pascal, who so rightly has been honored to be in the Hall of Fame, I'll never forget the woman that was our HR person coming into the office and saying, there's somebody here from the Tampa Tribune, and he wants to review all of the applicants for the job. And pardon my language, but I told him where to go. 15 minutes later, I get a phone call from Legal Affairs. You're new at this stuff, we gotta understand that, but you don't have a choice. He can sit there and watch you open the mail and do those kinds of things and so forth, and they have all the right to do that. So this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. Joe, the truck driver that sent in his application because he watched the NBA last week, thinks he can be our coach. I can't wait till I see that 2 days later, every applicant and name on the list printed on the front page of the newspaper. This took some getting used to, I want to tell you. But needless to say, we made those decisions, brought in Coach Pascal. And want to know how long ago that was? I was the 50th home in Tampa Palms. Bobby was, I think, 37th home in Tampa Palms. Now you got Bruce B. Downs, it's like Atlanta. My goodness. Half hour to go 5 miles. It was a crazy time, but it was an interesting time, and we had a lot of fun doing it, and it was really, really, really interesting. I'm indebted for the relationships that I built with the staff. You know, it's kind of like the turtle that finds himself up on the post on the country road. Somebody drives by and he says, "What the hell? How'd you get up there?" I don't know, but a lot of people must have lifted me up to get up here. And so that's the way I felt then, feel now. But it takes more than great coaches and great athletes. It takes alignment through the university. As I mentioned, I had the opportunity to work with several presidents at USF. And since she's here tonight, and I'm very grateful she chose to be here tonight, let me tell you some real stories about Betty Castor. We talk about the start in football. It was a period of time. It was a Monday. It was a holiday. I forget which holiday it was, but it was in October. And she and her trusted aide, who's also here today, Kathy Betancourt, I said, "I need to talk with you all. I've had it up to here. Every time I get a phone call from Tallahassee, they want more information. The more we give them, the more they want. The more questions they ask, we answer. The more questions follow up. I can't get things done by answering the phone from Tallahassee." And Betty Castor says to me, "Is that all you got to worry about? Are you kidding me?" Since that very day, I've never received another call from that area code. She knew how to get things done in Tallahassee and tell those people to keep their mind to themselves in business. In fact, my wife is a retired school teacher from the state of Florida. And when I check on her retirement benefits, they won't return my call. You've been blocked. That number's been blocked. You're not allowed to get that kind of thing. But what it really takes is great alignment. And President Castor was tremendous for all that we did. I was chatting with her earlier about the first conference meeting that we went to. It was in San Diego, and it was important because we're trying to fulfill our ambition. And all of you know this because that's what South Florida is about. Great ambitions, aggressive ambitions, and athletics was no different. And so we're going to the first meeting. She's going to meet with the presidents and trying to finagle our way in to this opportunity. And so she goes to the meeting. It's in San Diego, and it's late, a dinner meeting. I don't sleep that night. We're leaving on the plane the next morning. "Betty, how'd that go?" "I think it went all right." I said, how do you deal with being the only woman in this room of 14 presidents?" She said, "Oh, I'm used to that. But those guys are full of themselves." She says, "They keep talking about us and our young university and, you don't, your football program's a dream and this kind of thing. And basketball, yeah, that success is recent and whatnot. But, we don't get into that conference and we don't have admission into that conference if she didn't do one hell of a sales job that night in San Diego." And that's how it got started. On the other hand, her friend, Kathy Betancourt, she's a different piece of work. And I didn't know she was going to be here tonight, but when I saw her, I told her, I got to tell this story. And it was at the time when they were just beginning to develop down on the Riverside. And they wanted USF to have a presence down there academically and bring some academic features to the location. It's still under construction. We're walking in there. So we walk in the door, and I don't know what I'm doing there. I got nothing to do with this. But anyway, we're in there. Kathy leans over. They got this guy with a belt, tool belt hanging off, and there's another guy up there on the ladder painting and whatnot. He says, "You got any schedule cards?" I said, "What are you talking about, schedule cards? What do you need schedule cards?" She says, "Give me a dozen schedule cards." She climbs up the ladder to Joe the plumber, or whatever he's doing up there with his thing. He says, "Hey, here's a scheduled South Florida football. You need to come. And if you need me to get you a free ticket, here's my number." So I don't know whether she got him tickets, what happened after that, but she was one hell of a salesperson. One hell of a salesperson. And the worst phone call I got in my professional life was a phone call I got. It was July, early August, and I'm in Memphis, and Memphis was having its or the conference was having its preseason football media day and whatnot, and we're not in there yet, and we're kind of begging and trying to believe like we're in there and it's from Betty. So, Paul, I wanted to tell you, I want to let you know that I've accepted a job with the federal government to run these educational programs, and my jaw hits the floor. Because the person who's been running our interference, she doesn't look like a left tackle, but boy, she could open some holes and shut some people up and put some people down when it had to be, is not going to be there anymore. But, that's kind of selfish. I was being selfish. And all of us were better off because of her efforts, not just at South Florida, but subsequently when she went up and worked in the Department of Education and did great things for our kids and all the things that she's served and people that she's impacted in her life and her career are greatly appreciated. But, there's so many different kinds of people that contribute to the success of this program. When you have problems and needs and you go to some people, there are some people that you get all the reasons why not. Oh, we can't do that. We can't do that. Well, I'm not sure about that. That's not the South Florida way. And I was lucky enough to have a person with me and get in the foxhole with me that most people don't realize how much impact he really had in our program. But a person who, whenever I went to with a need or a problem, if it was really hard, it was, let me figure that out. And Mike LePan, who ran the Sun Dome, would find a way to build a locker room, find a way to take these monstrous steel girders out of the Sun Dome that held up the speaker systems for special events, move it outside, and we had the coaches' offices, and we had this, that, and always found a way to get things done. And it's people like Mike, and Mike in particular, that helped make the success that we enjoy today. And he was a good guy. Because the best thing he did was he lent us Pam LePan, who started an industry. We didn't have a compliance office and staff. Are you kidding me? We stole Pam from the admissions office, and she knew everybody in that, in the registrar's office, and how to run those things. And she was a one-woman show and got it all done. Never had to, deal with any difficulty. She got it all done. She was like Mike, she's a can-do kind of person. And you need those kind of people to be successful. And you need to have the ambition and the aggressiveness and the assertion and the confidence that you can get things done. And people like you who provided me and Mike and all of Barb and all of Barry and all the management team that we have had when I was at South Florida, so that we can apply the resources so that Erica and Quentin and their teammates can challenge their talents and skills to the utmost. And that's what it's all about. And I hope I have had the time to say how grateful I am to each and every one of you. There's a couple of special people, though, that I have to single out, which is always a dangerous thing to do. I told you those first couple of months we hired Bobby and got our basketball going. And people don't realize that in 90, when we got an invite to the NCAA tournament by winning the conference tournament in Birmingham. And I guess it was 92 when we got an at-large bid to the tournament. It established in the national media perspective that this is a young, emerging university with ambition and great possibilities in college athletics. Without that, we don't get a return phone call from the Metro. We don't get a return phone call for Conference USA. We don't get any of those kinds of things. And most people don't tie those things together. And so, Bobby, we appreciate your work and your efforts that help build some foundations for us to be successful. Now, one of the next people I want to introduce and say something about is Coach Levitt. I can't tell him how honored I am that you're here. He chose to come. But you got to stop lying about holes in the floor of the trailers. We're building the program from the ground floor up, literally. You can see the floor through. You see the ground through the floor. But it's through those kind of things and those kinds of adversities that make people appreciate what they've got. If you focus on what you don't have, you'll never get to where you want to go. And he was excellent. We were partners, and every day I would go to his office on Sunday morning. Sun would be up. Office, okay. I go to the trailer. I walk in the trailer. I didn't know that they sold Pepsi by the 2-liter bottle. But there's a 2-liter bottle laying on the floor, empty pizza box. He said, Jim, what are you doing? He says, well, the game was over. I came back to the office and I was watching tape and watching film and whatnot and just catching a few minutes of sleep here. His commitment to South Florida football helped permeate the entire program and help permeate the community. And it's people like that that really make the difference. The Bay Area has also been great to my family. My son Michael here, thankfully by the grace of God. As I understand it, he's scheduled to leave Charlotte today at 7:30, plane leaves 10:30. Touches down, literally. Tampa Airport, boom, back up. The wind blows him around and whatnot. And he says, I'm headed to Fort Myers, Dad. So great. Now, he's a resourceful young man, and I figured, well, he might go rent a car or hitchhike or do something to get his way up the interstate. But lo and behold, the plane finally lands 2:30. He says, I've landed in Tampa again. And Tampa's been great to him. He had the good fortune to get a great education at Jesuit and a great opportunity to play baseball and football in championship level teams at Jesuit. And so we're very, very grateful for all that Tampa has done. But the two things, well, one of the things that you don't know that Tampa has done for him and for Maureen and I is that he's in television. He works for ESPN now, and at the time he was doing Rays games here and he was doing Lightning games here. And when he was doing Lightning games, he met his wife. And she's great. But I'm going to tell you two things about Kelly, which set her apart from most. Number one, she's a national level, Olympic level marathoner. Qualified for the Olympic trials, which are held in Atlanta. And the one thing I can assure you is that's the first person in the Griffin family tree that has ever run a marathon. So she's the first. But more importantly, Maureen and I are so fortunate that she's the mom to our 3 grandchildren. Although Grandpa is good for one thing, go and get an ice cream. And I told Michael Kelly this story the other day. I've been to Super Bowls and World Series and NCAA championships and all that kind of thing. Great events. 2 weeks ago on Sunday, I went to my first middle school cross-country meet. And there's my grandson. He's carefree, doesn't care about anything, but he's in one of his first meets. Now, this is a kid that I went to his first T-ball baseball game, hits the ball, hits it well, and then starts strolling to third base. This is not going real well. Dad goes out and reaches him and says, no, the other way, go this way. Kind of started the end of his baseball career. And now here he is in a cross-country meet. And he's out there running like the devil. And I said, well, where did he get into this? Where did he, he's just competing and happy as a pig in a blanket. He finishes the race. Grandpa, 14:34. That's great. That's great. I don't know, 14:34 what? How long was the race? You went into the woods, you came out of the woods. I hope you didn't pull a Rosie Ruiz in the marathon and take the L train and bypass, but no. So, that's the kind of experiences that we try as administrators to create. And he's enjoying his world right now, and it's 14:34. And the last individual I'd like to single out is, as was indicated, I left the University of Maryland in 1969, started coaching in 1970. I liked college so much that I just never left. So all my career was in college sports. So obviously I've been around a lot of coaches, a lot of athletes, a lot of people. But you don't realize that you have, in my opinion, the best coach that I've ever encountered among your midst. And she doesn't like to be embarrassed like this, but I promised her I wouldn't make her speak. But Sherry Bedingfield is what it's all about. Now, if you don't know why, let me explain to you. Her teams won all the time. Her women were great all the time. The list always started at the end of each semester at the top with women's tennis. And those are great things. But the other thing that she was unique about was her love for her university. And she was involved in every aspect of our program. If she wasn't playing and competing with her team, she was at the volleyball match. She wouldn't miss it. She was at a football game, wouldn't miss it. She was at a softball game, wouldn't miss it. More importantly, as Pam and others will be able to tell you, if there ever was a project that needed to have done, a review to study or get thoughtful recommendations, the question I would always ask is, who's going to be on this task force or committee with Sherry? That was always a given, because she was committed to excellence in USF. And I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to share that observation with all of you, and my appreciation and gratitude for her. In conclusion, I'm sure you're glad to hear that, I haven't been on the campus in 21 years. I'm supposed to go out and visit tomorrow. I hope that I can find my way. I would hope that you might paint some little stickers on the road and make sure I can get there. Thank goodness for Google Maps. I know the general direction, but I'm not sure anything's in place anymore out there the way it was. But the most important thing about success that we enjoyed during my 15-year career is identical to the things that will help Michael be as successful as anyone else has been at USF Athletics, and that's you. It's about people. It's not about bricks and mortar and flash and all that kind of stuff. It's about people. It's about working hard, not letting other people tell you can't, having ambition, having desire, having the confidence, and surrounding yourself with the greatest of people. I was fortunate that way. I knew early on that the success that I would have is by getting smart, capable people around me to make me look good. And in fact, it exists today. And I don't care if it's in sports, and I don't care if it's in your business or whatever else is involved. It's about people. It's about people coming together, mutually aligned, led by great leadership, with great direction and energy and effort, making great things happen. So on behalf of my family, thank you. I've appreciated the opportunity to share some of those observations with you, and I wish nothing but the best as we move forward. Thank you.